what is out there? Oh, right. Okay, let's talk cinema royalty.
Yes, so David Attenborough, Ocean. So this is a typically eye-popping documentary, 2 years in the making, co-directed by, now forgive me, Keith Scoley or Sholey, Toby Nallum, Colin Botfield. So David Attenborough, in his late 90s, as he approaches what, the century, thinks that we are facing the biggest crisis and, crucially, and this is important, also the biggest opportunity of his near century on Earth. Here's a little taster.
After living for nearly 100 years on this planet, I now understand the most important place on Earth is not on land, but at sea.
Through the course of my life, we have been on a voyage of ocean discovery. Only now are we understanding what it means for the future of our world. What we have found could change everything.
For once you've truly seen the sea, you'll never look at Earth in the same way again. The ocean is our planet's life support system and our greatest ally against climate catastrophe.
Yet it's at a crossroads.
We are draining the life from our ocean. Today, it is in such poor health, I would find it hard not to lose hope, were it not for the most remarkable discovery of all. The ocean can recover faster than we had ever imagined. It can bounce back to life. Put simply, we've been given a lifeline. It may not just recover, but thrive beyond anything anyone alive has ever seen. This is the story of our ocean, and how we must write its next chapter together. For if we save the sea, we save our world. After a lifetime of filming our planet, I'm sure that nothing is more important.
That's a great clip.
It is, isn't it? And I mean,
it makes me want to watch it a lot.
And you could listen to that voice, infinitely. Yeah. So opens in cinemas coinciding with Attenborough's 99th birthday. Will later on it be available on National Geographic, Disney Plus, and Hulu. So the crisis that is sort of the premise of the film is, which is laid out in pretty uncompromising terms, is that the oceans are being destroyed due in large part to industrialized overfishing and particularly bottom trawling, these kind of drag nets that scrape the bottom of the ocean, engulfing everything before them, leaving a kind of trail of devastation in their wake. The scrapes are so dramatic that, as he says, you can see them from space. And then there's a shot from space in which you can indeed see them. We also see really alarming footage from the mouth of one of those nets as it plows along, it's like it's just churning the entire bottom of the ocean up. And so what we learn is that effectively this has caused massive destruction. One of the things that it does is that it grabs a whole bunch of stuff, often in pursuit of a single species. And so a huge amount of waste, a huge amount of stuff is thrown away. And then they talk about these ocean-bound factories, which are trawling for krill. These are like ships on which they do the trawling and then they do the processing and they do it all. So it's literally like a factory on the sea. Everything is taken, nothing is put back. And Attenborough, who is fairly outspoken, calls this a form of modern-day colonialism at sea.
Wow.
And you see at one point this kind of illustration of a coastal community that depend on fishing, and the members of that coastal community out in their very small boats fishing, and then in the background, these huge industrial-size, trawlers ploughing away. Worse still, it turns out that these underwater ecosystems, which could prove crucial to climate control because of the way in which they retain carbon harvesting, are being destroyed as part of this process. So that's the bad news, okay? And the bad news is very bad. However, what Attenborough goes on to say is that there is good news, and the good news is that it turns out that despoiled oceans can rebuild themselves much faster than anybody thought. And to prove that, they have the example of certain sanctuary areas in which basically any form of intervention is banned. And what happens is these areas grow back very, very quickly. They also produce sea life that then overspills into the rest of the ocean. So the argument all the way through is this is not an argument against fishing. This is not saying you can't fish. This is not saying you can't eat fish. What it is doing is saying that there is a sustainable way of doing this and an unsustainable way of doing this. Now, it turns out at the United Nations upcoming ocean conference in Nice, it is hoped that member states will agree in principle to protect 30% of the world's oceans from destructive fishing by 2030. At the moment, the protected areas are absolutely tiny. And what Attenborough does is to make this incredibly convincing argument that this is the only way forward, that essentially this is an amazing resource. It is in a precipitous point at the moment. And if we pull back and if we actually properly protect areas of it, which it is possible to do, it will thrive. It will rebuild itself faster than anybody thought possible, and it will have a significant change, not just to the sea, but actually to the whole planet. As always, extraordinary photography, which is what you'd expect. I mean, amazing marine life, mind-boggling underwater terrains, shimmering coral reefs which are all too suddenly then turn to kind of white deserts due to a heat event. There's been quite a lot of press about the film being particularly outspoken. I mean, the way in which the ocean is being destroyed is made very clear. But as always, Attenborough is at pains to create a narrative that is engaging without just being polemical. I mean, his message is that this possible accord coming up is a huge opportunity, and if grasped, is a massive plus. But if missed, it would prove catastrophic. It's a really, I mean, of course, it's an impressive piece of work. You said just from hearing that clip, you said, I want to see that. If I have any criticism at all, and this seems like the most churlish thing, but just with my critic's hat on, if I have any criticism at all, it's that the music is pretty bombastic. And there was a couple of points in which I thought, okay, just dial the music back a little bit, because this is working on its own accord. But it's, that is such a small thing. And it's an urgent message, and David Attenborough has earned the right to be listened to. But when you watch the documentary, I know we've all sort of got used to it now, but you sit there and you watch this footage and you go, this is astonishing. This is absolutely astonishing. And then he lays out in really simple terms, and I say in really simple terms because even I can understand it. And believe me, what I understand about the ecosystem wouldn't fill the back of a postage stamp. But he tells it as a narrative, as a story, and it's a narrative that is absolutely, this could be really bad, but crucially, do not lose faith, because it could be really, really good.
There are very few people really who you could say, when this person speaks, they are a moral authority, would generally be accepted by most people as a moral authority. And that if they say that this thing is so, then you would go, okay, well, I accept that it probably is because it's them.
Yeah.
But he's one of them.
He is. And I'll stress this once more. It's not a lecture. It's not a polemic. I mean, it is clearly polemical in that it has a message that it wants you to take away from it. But as a viewing experience, it is astonishing. And yes, you're absolutely right. There are very few people that have that kind of moral authority, and he is one of them, and rightly so.
And when you get to 99, you probably think, this is what I really think, and I'm going to say it. And you know what? I don't really care what the implications are, because
but
I need to say it.
But I would just slightly correct that, not correct, I would just slightly add to that. There has been a lot of thing about he's more outspoken in this than he has been before, possibly. But he is absolutely really rigorous about keeping a balance, about not losing any of the audience, and always saying this could be terrible. and this is terrible at the moment, but there is a possibility for it being the opposite of that. And I think, just as a piece of rhetorical work, I think that's extraordinary.
As just judged as cinema, it sounds as so. My instinct is to think, okay, it might be easier if I wait for it to be on a streamer, which you've said that it is going to be.
It will be, yeah.
But maybe it's worth seeing it on the biggest screen that you can find.
I think that if there is ever an argument for going to the cinema on the basis of, you want to see this amazing photography and you want to see it projected and you want to see it big. Also, I think actually there is an argument for seeing it with other people, because funnily enough, I think it is one of those things in which you would like to feel a group reaction to it. So I think there's every reason for going to see it in the cinema. I mean, it looks better than most movies that are out at the moment. Certainly looks better than Thunderbolts, which has now been renamed in the plot spoiling way New Avengers. That was the whole thing about, we couldn't talk about what the asterisk meant. That's what the asterisk meant.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense.
So they renamed it over the weekend.
Okay. That sounds like a nuts thing to do. But anyway, so what is this called?
This is called David Attenborough Ocean, or Ocean David Attenborough. I think the correct title is Ocean with David Attenborough, but it comes up on, if you search it on your film sites, it will. If you search David Attenborough or Ocean, it'll get you to it. But it is technically Ocean with David Attenborough or Ocean : David Attenborough, just depending on which film site you find it on.
Ocean featuring David Attenborough.
David Attenborough's Ocean featuring fish.
Ocean versus David Attenborough.
That's right.
Do the kids talk like that? I think they probably do.